Welcome to another episode of Civic Affairs. How's it going, Andy?
Great, we're back, right?
We're back after, hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving, after the Thanksgiving break. And this is our last episode before the municipal elections take place.
Incredible.
Isn't that crazy how fast it's come?
Feel like we're on a speeding bullet.
I know, and we've talked to so many candidates, and so much has happened in the last week because we actually hosted our debates, the on-TV debates with the ratepayers, and we had everybody come in ward by ward, and we asked them some pretty specific questions. And tonight it's exciting because we are going to get to ask the people who are lucky enough to come on the show one last time.
That's right.
We're going to give them a chance to have one last kick at the bucket, but the questions aren't going to be easy, so hopefully they're ready.
We're going to raise the bar a little bit.
We are. So coming up, we have Derek Pierce, who's running in Ward 1 for the very first time. We have Lisa Vezo-Allen running in Ward 2, Matthew Scott running in Ward 5, and Jason Young, lastly, running in Ward 5. These are all Ward 2. Yeah. These are all new candidates, new faces that we'll be interviewing tonight, and they're looking forward to chatting with us. We're looking forward to chatting with them. So we'll be back after this break with the first interviewee, Derek Pierce. Stay tuned on Civic Affairs.
Welcome back to Civic Affairs, and welcome back to the show, Derek Pierce.
Thanks.
He's a candidate for councillor in my ward.
Yeah,
Ward 1. Derek, let's start with this. Tax increases, industrial small and medium light taxes, not good in Sault Ste. Marie, 6.387%. Highest in Ontario. North Bay is the lowest in Northern Ontario, 1.6 or thereabouts. What's going on? How, if elected, how are we going to solve this problem? This has to be a priority.
Yeah, so, we got a Noront bid. They're trying to get a smelter here, and, we got our industrial tax rates rather high. What we need to do is, if we want to attract businesses here, specifically industry and small businesses, is we got to find a way to get that tax rate down. Now, one of the majority ways to get taxes down, you got to increase the tax base. We got to bring more people here and more businesses. So we got to look at, what can we supply businesses, industry that'll make them want to come here first, and then that'll help us to lower that tax rate.
Talk a little bit about North Bay, because you and I have talked about it before.
Yeah.
The mayor in there, they're really doing the right things, aren't they, in the last 5 to 10 years?
Like I stated on previous things, and when I came here, in 2011, I left Sault Ste. Marie and I moved to North Bay, actually. So I've experienced how they're doing things right there. In North Bay, I feel they're 10 years ahead of us. In 2011, they had patios on their main streets. They had a hub trail that went entirely around their city, not just in a circle, but it branched out to numerous areas. Their downtown was clean, crisp. There wasn't big trees blocking views of the stores. They had stuff for people to do on their main street. I know I could walk around the corner from where I lived and look down the street, and I could see 9 or 10 things for me to do on a daily basis. And it was easier to navigate there. The traffic was nice and slipline. Their mall was huge and full of stores. They had a big parking garage attached to one side of it. So, the stores that were in there actually, had a reason for being tenants of that place. And I didn't see too much of the industry and stuff in North Bay because I was in the hospitality sector working at Tim Hortons.
Right.
But, people were living there, people were happy, so it must have been doing fairly well.
If you're elected next Monday already, or a week away, is this a priority for you to get this small and medium industrial tax rate down?
Definitely. Like I said, if we want to, if we want to get businesses and industry here, we need to get that tax rate down. And I know a lot of the incumbents are saying you just can't lower the tax rate, and you can. But you got to get people here to increase that tax base. You got to get residents, you got to get businesses, and you got to get industry. And like I've been saying, is in order to get these people here, you have to give them incentives. You have to, for the businesses, you have to invest in the downtown core, for example. You have to invest down there, make it advantageous for businesses to come here. For industry, you got to give them either tax break to get them here initially, and then find a way to lower that tax rate.
How would you go about that, though, if you're elected to council, when you've got the pushback from city staff to continue status quo red tape?
Yeah.
There hasn't been
it's not just going to be a one-person job. It's going to take a couple of city councillors to make that change.
Right.
The unfortunate thing, though, is if it doesn't change with city staff, you know, city councilors can only do so much. So we got to work together as a council as a whole, not just, you know, individuals, because there, you know, there's no I in team, and, you know, say with hockey teams, you know, one player doesn't win games. It's the entire team. So we have to work as an entire team of councillors.
That's right. Yeah, council needs to kind of correct that. And
exactly. Yeah.
There are a bunch of individuals now versus a team effort, and I think some of the other candidates are beginning to see that as well. That,
oh yeah, yeah. I've met a couple of them.
Needs to be changed
in the debates, and I feel that there's a couple of candidates out there that really want to work with the other ones.
All right. Yeah. Great. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this break. Welcome back to Civic Affairs. We have a power-packed lineup for you tonight, and welcome back, Derek Pierce. Let's talk about the PUC, Derek, and the agreement with the city of Sault Ste. Marie. Where is this going? Are they going to keep it, or what's going on with that?
I haven't read too much into it because when the first time it was negotiated, I wasn't around. But you know, I hear there's a lot of talk about whether or not the city should keep the PUC has, you know, as ownership of it, amongst selling it off,
right,
you know, privatizing it. Personally, I believe, you know, the PUC is infrastructure that we need to retain ownership of. Ownership, if we privatize that, you know, rates could increase. We've seen the same thing with Ontario Hydro provincially. You know, they privatized it. You know, stuff went out of whack, and you know, we got to keep PUC ownership in the city.
That's right, because lock, stock, and barrel, if they let it go, then we're going to see a huge change.
And public utilities is one of our city's main things. You know, it's a service that we can't let be degraded or messed with. It's a core service that we need to keep control of, and that's why I believe it needs to keep ownership.
Right. The smart grid, is that the way to go at this point in time?
You always want to advance technology in your community to make things better. A smart grid is a good step in the right direction. I think, you know, we have to use more technology everywhere, though, not just in our PUC. You know, it needs to be integrated into transit and all over our city. Right. I understand our city's IT infrastructure is a little bit on the old side. In this day and age, when technology is readily available, you know, we hadn't put investment into that, and I think we really need to invest in new technology. And I've said it throughout my campaign, and I'll keep saying it, is technology rapidly changes. The Sioux's not. It's time that we changed.
Right. What about all those solar panels and windmills? Is that passé, or are they still going to use that given the change in policy?
They say that Sault Ste. Marie is the alternative energy capital of North America, and it's all right to say that when you put up a couple of windmills and solar panels, but we've got to realize just putting up a little bit of windmills and solar panels isn't going to make us an alternative energy capital. You know, we have to be investing in green energy everywhere that we can, and I know that Ontario's laws with solar panels and stuff like that, you just can't put them on your house and take your home off the grid. You have to sell that back to the province, but you know, should the city be investing in more green technology? Of course.
Yeah,
you know,
I agree. We haven't done enough.
With the buses, you can go full electric buses. The technology exists.
Got about 20 seconds left. Is there one thing, if you were elected as councillor, that you would stop that's going on right now on council?
Yeah, useless spending on consultants and things that we don't need to change, like the city branding. I feel that, you know, we don't need to be hiring an outside agency outside of the city to develop our brand. We should either find somebody here to do it or have our city staff at Tourism Sault Ste. Marie do it.
Great. Good luck the rest of the way. 1 week left, and all the best to you. That's Derek Pierce, the candidate for councillor in Ward 1. Riley will be back with Lisa Vazeau-Allen, the candidate for council in Ward 2, right after this message.
Welcome back to Civic Affairs. I'm here with our second guest of the evening, Lisa Vezzo-Allen. How's it going?
Good, Riley. How are you?
I'm good. You've been knocking on doors in the rain?
Knocking on doors in the rain, and in the really, really torrential rain, those are apartment days.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It's been a little wet.
Yeah,
but,
it's been horrible.
Saturday was beautiful, and it was really cool. I was in my old neighborhood, so I lived on the drive from high school into university, and it was just... I saw like
reminiscent.
And everyone was out on the street, so it was just like, Lisa, what's going on? It was more like a visit.
Yeah, and you were like, I got work to do.
A little catch up, yeah. So, but that was, it was good.
So we've talked a lot about, the issues specific to Ward 2, the issues in our city. So all that's left really is a couple of questions that we haven't gotten the chance to ask you yet, that weren't asked at the debates that we hosted. So now is kind of your chance to discuss them. So the first question I have for you, because I don't believe that we've talked about it, is your stance on the Norgoma. It does fall within your ward.
The Norgoma does fall within my ward, and I've spoken to a couple of people from the Norgoma, and what I want to see is the feasibility study. So Sean Meadis from Nordic Institute did a feasibility study, and that's just the person that I am. I need to see the facts and the figures and the plan.
Right.
And that's what I've told the Norgoma is I want to see the feasibility plan, which I could probably just call Sean and see it.
Right.
I think moving forward, they need to be a little more creative with what they're offering at the Norgoma. I've taken my kids on the Norgoma. I used to, many years ago, they used to have like a dinner club there, and I actually I waitressed there.
Oh, wow.
Like it was 30 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah, I want to see the plan. I do think there is, we keep talking about wanting attractions. So that is an attraction. I think it needs to be updated. Like I would like to see sort of like multimedia exhibits in there, like sort of like what it was like, things like that.
Make it a little more innovative.
Definitely a little more innovative, but I want to see the plan.
Before you can make a decision.
Before I can make a decision, correct.
That's fair enough. Now, on another note, specific to your ward, so in our debates we talked about Bay Street, Bay Street beautification.
Right.
But we didn't quite get to Queen Street. Now, we talked a lot about, the Downtown Association has done a lot of beautifying on Queen. But a lot of people, a common kind of debate that comes up is whether Queen should be one or two ways. And I was wondering what your belief is. Do you think having traffic going two ways would promote people to stop more into the businesses, or is that kind of a non-issue to you?
So there's a couple of things with Queen Street when it's dealing with getting people in the stores. It's also, it's not just whether the street is one way or two way. The parking is definitely an issue.
Huge issue.
So I had Bubble Pop Beauty and Bridal, which was on Queen between spring and March.
Okay.
And, people would always complain about parking, or I would be chasing, pay for people's parking ticket, or putting, a loonie or toonie in the meter if they were, especially because you're shopping for a bridal dress. That takes...
Might need a little more than 2 hours.
It takes a little more than an hour or two. There is the free 2-hour parking in the back, but then you have to move your car and that sort of thing. So first thing is we need to address the parking issue and, what is the cost of running versus the benefit.
Right.
That's number one. Number two is creating a culture of people that will go downtown. So when I had the shop, we'd have like the Moonlight Magics and our Rotary Days, and people would come downtown and they'd be like, oh yeah, this is like my one time a year I come downtown.
It's like that's
okay.
Sucks to hear.
Yeah, so it's a cultural thing as well. I think Josh and the team at the Downtown Association, the board, have done a really good job this summer with the events. Now, as far as the parking, the direction going two-way, it is a lot of money. I went to see the study, and it would not be my only decision. So I like to see how is this going to get paid for, and what is really the benefit. Are there other like communities that we can look at for the two-way? And I certainly understand when people come off the bridge, the access to Queen is very difficult.
Very limited.
And we do have a lot of one-way streets. And I was at 700 Bay door knocking, and this couple, they've only lived here for 2 years, and they're like, can you get rid of all the one-way streets, please?
Single-handedly.
All of them. And it is confusing.
No, it is.
It is. And I don't know how many times I've seen somebody going on Church or Pym the wrong way. So I think as a community that we need to address all of that, but I want to see, like, is there proof that we can make this happen, and where is the money coming from?
Absolutely.
I think it would be a benefit, but I'm also about being, you know, due diligence, and ensuring that that's something that we can do and still provide all the services we need to provide in the city.
So ultimately, parking is paramount in that sense.
Parking and creating that culture of people that will come downtown.
Otherwise, it's not worth it. Now, we will be back with Lisa just after this short break. Stay tuned on Civic Affairs. And we are back in the studio with Lisa Vezo-Allen, who is running for a council position on Ward 2. So we talked a little bit about the Nargoma, we talked about Queen Street. Both of these are hot topics that fall into Ward 2. Now, on the note, we talked about, you know, feasibility studies, and in terms of the Nargoma, we also talked about studies in terms of Queen Street being two ways.
Correct.
Now, when we talk about studies, that leads me to think about consultants and how, especially this election year, a pretty contentious topic has been council's use of out-of-town consultants, and whether there's a need for that or whether the talent is here in the Soo that could be hired. What do you think about, you know, the amount that the city has used consultants, or do you think that it's necessary?
So without having all the background,
it's tough, I know.
So a couple of things. Consultants are cheaper than a staff person. So, and is it for a short-term project? Is it a research piece? Like what is the reason for the consultant?
Right.
So number one. Number two, I think we should definitely tap into our local talent base and really look at proposals that come from local business, like local companies or consultants or whatever, first before we do get out of town. There was one time I gave a presentation for the Festival and Events Network. I did. Right. I do grant writing workshops. I charged them because they had funding to bring in consultants to train.
Right.
So I only charged them like $300. And then I remember another person saying to me, "Oh yeah, we're also bringing in this person from London, and they have a CD, and they're like $1,200." So I was like, okay, like I only charge you $300 because I'm local and I believe in what you do.
Right.
But then you're bringing in an out-of-town person. I mean, $1,200 isn't a ton of money, but it's certainly, as someone who wants to support my community and help out, it left a sour taste
kind of
in my
slap
mouth.
In the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we need to look at that piece. But then, you know, I went to the Roger Brooks presentation, and it's true. And I've been a consultant with other communities as well in terms of not-profit. When you're not from here, you have a different lens.
Perspective, yeah.
And that lens, you look at things, even like when he was talking about signage and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, I see those signs all the time. I don't even think about it.
Right.
So when you are super familiar with something, you can't always see the deficits.
It's almost like you're too close to it.
Yeah, you can't always see the deficits. So, you know, my answer is, yes, I think that there's definitely a need for consultants in any business.
Right.
The council is the business of running the city, but how do we, you know, prioritize those consultants? What is the necessity of that consultant? And quite often, if you're seeing a specific project, that might be a requirement of the funding.
Absolutely.
So that's the other piece.
Now, we're just about out of time, but I wanted to ask you one quick question before we go.
Sure.
If you were elected, what is one motion or issue that's kind of in motion or in process right now that you would fight to stop?
That is a very good question. I have no idea, to be perfect.
Don't know yet?
I don't know yet. If I read the feasibility study, it would probably be the Nargoma.
Right.
To stop that, because there's a really great grassroots foundation there that I think is really important to support. So that would be of that, you know, motion that's sort of top of mind, the news right now, and what I've paid attention to, then definitely that.
Absolutely. Well, sounds good. Thank you so much, Lisa, for taking the time on this rainy night to come in and speak with us. We'll be back with our second guest, Matthew Scott, just after this break. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Civic Affairs. Thanks for staying with us. We have a great show for you in the hour. Welcome back to Civic Affairs. Matt Scott is a candidate for council in Ward 5.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back, sir.
Anytime.
Ward 5, let's start with that.
Sure.
Is there anything you would want to champion in Ward 5 if you're elected in 1 week?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm hoping to do, and it's what I'm getting from everybody at the doors, a lot of people are saying that nothing is happening over there anymore. There's no events going on. I would just like to bring some things happening as well back to the West End. As focus on parks, I've been telling people at the doors, for example, there used to be a park at Mike Zook, or a hockey rink at Mike Zook Park, and that's something I want to bring back as well. There's a lot of youth in the area. I know it goes up and down, and I noticed going through the doors that there's a lot of younger people there again. So I'd like to have something active for them to do, as well as I'm letting people know that I'm going to take care of any of the current infrastructure problems. So the roads, you hear it everywhere. The roads, the roads, the roads. That's something I really want to take care of as well. And little things too. I say little, but we'll see how little they are when you take them to the city. But speed limits on certain roads. There are trucks, transport trucks that are driving overweight on these roads above the speed limit, and it's causing structural damage to certain houses in the area. And I'm looking to take care of that for people as well. Basically, I just want to be a voice for everyone.
I'll give you one thing. What about the lighting when you're driving out to the airport at night?
You know what? I do have to admit,
along Second Line.
The new lights from PUC are great, but maybe they could do a few more. I know on my street where I live, I don't even have a street light, so I have to wear a headlamp when I walk my dog at night so I don't get hit by a car. But we could do some more lights out there, for sure.
Excellent. Skills to council. What skills can you bring to city council?
Yeah. So as I've said before, I'm a data analyst, so I have a very analytical thinking about me. I like anything that has to do with numbers and data and figuring it out and looking at more data is better data. So figuring things out that way, right? If you can give me even the most minute point and add it in there, we can use it somehow. So I think a very analytical thinking and mindset is something that I can bring to council.
You can help maybe if you're elected to upgrade the IT end of it. From what I'm hearing, City Hall isn't quite upgraded as much as it could be.
Absolutely.
In 2018.
I was reading something about that came out in regards to a Freedom of Information request, and the fact that the city said that it wasn't just that easy to get was quite shocking to me, because knowing what I do for work, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without current technology. So I think that that's a big thing the city could absolutely do, and I would love to bring that in because I could show them how to use it, I could show them what kind of functions there are, and I believe in upgraded IT for sure.
Now, Ward 5 is a tough thing because it goes way out, it's spread out, and how do you deal with that when you're running for council?
It's been tough. It has been a challenge for sure. I know I was speaking to your colleague out there about when you're going door to door, when you're walking in the more rural areas, it takes a long time. You got to walk. You can't exactly just get back into your car, drive a little bit. Next thing you know, you're doing the Drake Kiki challenge and you're letting your car drive itself while you're walking next to you, right? So that's the thing. It's really tough. I know that some of the people that have been running have been using a bike, which is a great idea. I like to get my steps in personally. So, but I've been keeping with it. Having my wife be able to drive me is great too. She can just sit in the car and I can just kind of roll up to the next house, run down the driveway. So it is tough though. It's definitely been a challenge.
Let's talk about the police commission a little bit and all that's been going on. Do you think the police has good use of money with the now at Station Mall and on Gore Street, but how are they policing in Ward 5 as relative to that? Yeah,
absolutely. So I've actually had a few discussions with some people involved with the police force, and as well as I've mentioned it on my on-TV debate, on my Sue Online debate. It's something that I would look at in a very analytical way. I'm sure if we aren't currently tracking data, we could be tracking data and looking at where most of any of the crimes that are being committed are happening, what times of day, where they are. Even if we got demographics of the people, we'd be able to kind of focus on those areas with our current police force, as well as I have been told that maybe we could have a few more cars on at night. I'd have to look into that. I don't know how verified that is, but there is concern from people in the ward about
That's great.
increased
Yeah.
crime.
I asked you about your skills. You can help there by looking at the data and
Yes.
being able to come up with conclusions from that.
Exactly.
All right. We'll be right back with you after this commercial break. Welcome back to Civic Affairs. We've got a fast-moving show for you, and Matt Scott, the candidate for Ward 5, is back with us. Talk to Derek Pierce in the first segment about the industrial tax rate for medium and light industrial.
Yep.
6.387. Does that concern you if elected? And
Yeah.
how would you approach solving that problem?
Absolutely, that is a concern. It's the highest, one of the highest in the province, and highest for sure in comparable cities in Northern Ontario, which isn't right. That doesn't really show that we're open for business at all.
Right.
So that's something that I would want to look into really early on, because I think by bringing in these industries, we could drive the economy and go beyond just being a steel town, and we can kind of have new things going on, right? So it's an economic diversity that we could really use by bringing more in, and I think that tax is a big part of it. What I would look at to help mitigate it is I don't think that these industries should be carrying a tax burden. I think what we need to do is get it in line with the other northern cities. Mm-hmm. It will probably be difficult to figure out where we can make the savings up in the budget, but I think that there are efficiencies to be found to make that up, because otherwise no one's going to come here. They're going to go to another northern city instead of us.
That's what's happening. And on taxes, transparency, probably the biggest issues of this campaign.
Absolutely, yeah. And transparency is huge for me. I don't think that we should hold anything from the taxpayers. Like, I'm a taxpayer, you're a taxpayer. We should have the right to know where our money is going.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. And we should have the right to have input. And we should have the right to be brought up to speed with everything that's going on.
Right.
If it regards our money, we should be in the know.
How would you make this an age-friendly city, Matt?
Yeah.
What are you thinking about that? Like, what are your thoughts with that theme?
Absolutely. So I know that we are an aging population. So we would have to focus on making sure that anything that happens in regards to recreational are accessible.
Right.
It is difficult for some of the older people in the community to get around or to move around, which also ties into, hopefully I can improve public transit. I know that we have issues right now with the bus routes, and they've gotten better, but they don't run as long. I know me personally, I would have to walk quite a long distance to get to the closest bus stop to my house. Right. And then from there, I would have to ride the bus. I'd have to transfer anywhere, basically, to get east. So it's a long day just getting somewhere in this city, and I hope that we can improve it. I know that there's been talks about ride-sharing programs, even if they're subsidized by the city. And that would be a great idea, because there could be some savings in there as well. And I have said it a few times, but why don't we let Uber in? Like,
right,
why are we not allowing stuff like that?
Well, you would think they're trying to, but what do you think happened with transit there? Did they rush too quickly to
it could have been
get that going?
Could have been anything. I wasn't involved in that process, obviously. I would like to know what they did. I think getting the drivers involved is great. Back to my use of data would be awesome. I'm almost positive these buses must have some type of GPS on them.
Right.
So you could track where they are, how quickly they're moving, at what time of day. You can get a big map of the city, track it all, get the drivers involved, figure out some optimized routes, as well, public input. Who knows it better than the people that ride it? So.
Well, exactly. In our remaining moments, Matt, is there anything you see on council now that if you were on council you would stop?
I think it's going to be a very broad theme, but my answer to this would just be the inability to work together efficiently. I find whenever I'm watching the meetings, sometimes it doesn't seem that they want to support each other. It doesn't seem that people are willing to work together. We're all in it for the same goal. We're all trying to move this city forward. Right. Nobody's sitting there thinking, you know what, no, I don't want, you know what I mean? Like, everybody wants to make the city better. Right. And I think the willingness to work together and compromise. I understand that compromise does need to be had. If there is an issue that we're voting on, and it's borderline, maybe make an adjustment to it and then see how everyone thinks about that. I mean, you really got to compromise.
That's a great answer, yes. Play as a team kind of thing.
Exactly, and you are a team. No one should be against each other in council.
Good luck the rest of the way. The 1 week, the weather's getting a little rough out there.
I know, it's tough.
Okay. All righty, that's it for Matt Scott, and Riley will stay in Ward 2. She'll be right back with Jason Young, candidate for council in Ward 2, after these messages.
Welcome back to Civic Affairs. I'm here with our final guest of the evening, Jason Young. How's it going tonight?
Very well, Riley.
Good, and I'm good. And how does it feel being our final guest before the municipal election on Civic Affairs?
I feel like I'm in a contest.
Some might say you did.
Some might.
Now let's get into it. We don't have a lot of time.
Okay, very good.
So, in our debates, we talked a lot about how, we need to make the city more friendly to seniors, but then we also have this discussion surrounding making it a place where young people will want to live and raise their families. If you were elected to council, how would you address finding that balance, making it age-friendly in all aspects?
Well, as a parent of a disabled adult, I have a lot of interest in seeing accessibility issues addressed. My daughter, although at this point in her life she's quite mobile, is going to be facing some challenges in the future. And we definitely have issues. I've talked to a lot of constituents who've said things about sidewalks and intersections, crossing 4 lanes of bay is a problem, things like that. In terms of the youth, I think we need to be visionary, and I'm really not trying to cop out on that, but we've been talking about this for years. Personally, I had to leave the city to develop a career.
Right.
I spent 12 years in the Ottawa area. When there are opportunities for people to come back, they do. And we need to make sure that we are fostering those opportunities the best we can. Council doesn't have a magic wand. We need to rely on the community to develop and to get those things going. Hopefully there are bright people, entrepreneurs, visionary people who want to do visionary things in Sault Ste. Marie that will attract the future generation. Yeah.
So you think it has to come hand in hand? Yes, council plays a role, but like you said, they don't have a magic wand. It takes the organizations and the individuals within the community to come together as well.
Council has to foster it.
Absolutely.
Council can help, but the vision has to be from the community.
Now, speaking of visionary youth, and this was a question that I asked your running mate, Lisa, where do you stand on the Norgoma being in Ward 2? Do you think it should be moved? Do you think it should stay where it is? What do you think of the new board? This has been a hot topic lately.
It has been a hot topic. I want to reiterate that on the 24th of April of last year, City Council made a decision. This election is not a mandate on the Norgoma. It is not a referendum on the Norgoma.
Right.
Council has made a decision. And if we're going to revisit every decision that Council made, we're not making the best use of our time. I certainly understand I certainly understand both points of view.
Absolutely.
We're talking about an 8-3 decision in Council. This is not a close decision. This was not, a 5-6 decision.
Right.
An 8-3 decision is a pretty big mandate. Those are the voices of people's elected representatives. It is not for me to revisit this issue. I wish the people with the Norgoma the best of luck.
Right.
And they have an extension. They may get the ear of Council again. I just really don't want to put my foot on something that's already been decided. It's already been decided.
So your focus is moving forward?
Absolutely.
Fair enough. And speaking of moving forward, what do you think about, because in our debates we talked about beautifying Bay. Mm-hmm. Now, Queen is another street that caused a lot of discussion in your ward. Do you think it should be made or consider being made a two-way street? And do you think that would help the businesses based on what you've heard on Queen Street?
I want to refer people to the Downtown Association, to the BIA. That's really the voice of the Queenstown merchants.
Right.
Personally, I would like to remind people that just the cost to change the traffic lights alone would be exorbitant.
Right.
This would be a fantastically huge cost. And for all of the merchants who are on the one side of the street that we change traffic on, their signage all changes, everything changes. So you're going to have half the people of Queen Street faced with putting up new signs, changing their signs, whatever, and the city is going to incur a huge cost. Look, Riley, I don't know if you've been to Ottawa, but if you think one-way streets in the sewer are bad, go to Ottawa. We can do other things with Queen Street. Here's a great idea. Have you been to Vancouver?
Yes.
Okay, downtown Vancouver at night, they turn all of the through streets on the main streets to flashing yellows and all the cross streets to flashing reds.
Right.
This costs nothing.
Yeah. And
it'll get some traffic moving downtown. The key to getting downtown revitalized is actually getting people down there. Lisa touched on it. We've had all of the candidates in Ward 2 have talked about this. We don't have what we used to have downtown.
Right.
There's not 3 movie theaters downtown. The nightlife has changed. Downtown has a lot of thriving businesses. Let's support those businesses. Let's get down there and spend our money in those businesses. That's going to revitalize our downtown.
Absolutely.
Not spending millions of dollars changing the traffic.
So the logistical issues are prevalent there. Now, we will be back with Jason after this very short break to talk a little bit more about his hopes for Ward 2. Stay tuned on Civic Affairs. Welcome back to Civic Affairs, our final segment of the evening, here with Jason Young. So, a topic that has also come up over the last couple of weeks, given the number of debates that have occurred, is the absence of a particular councillor, being Lou Turcot, who spent 18 years on council in total. But he didn't come to he didn't come to our debate, and he hasn't come on Civic Affairs. This is getting a lot of backlash from the community. As a running mate of Lou Turcot, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that there's a kind of, I don't want to call it a misconception, but there's a bit of confusion. Lou is a seated councillor, but he is certainly not an incumbent councillor for Ward 2. We want to give Lou the opportunity that we're all taking to run for Ward 2 and let the people of Ward 2 make a decision. Lou's commitment to the community is unrivaled.
Right.
You know, 18 years on council. If you are looking for change, then that might be a great place to start. In terms of things that have been put forward, quotes that have been attributed to other candidates, I would encourage people to find out the facts. I would love to benefit from people being disillusioned with Lou's lack of attendance. I want their votes.
Right.
However, I'm not going to participate in a tacit arrangement. I would like very much for people to make their own decision on that. The council minutes are out there. The record is there. If you want to have a look, have a look. I'd love to talk to Lou about his record. Lou voted against a 1% reduction in spending last year when SR was in the midst of their bankruptcy. This is a huge, huge issue.
Right.
I'd love to ask him a question about that. Unfortunately, he's not available.
So it speaks a little bit to transparency, which has been a big issue in this election as well, in terms of talking points. And that brings me to what very well might be my last question for you this evening. If you were elected onto council, what is one motion or issue that's happening now or has been, I know you said, you know, things that are done, leave them undone, but maybe something that's in the works that you would fight to put a halt to?
I don't want to, no, I do want to. I want to address the elephant in the room. On Wednesday, marijuana is going to be legal in Canada. There was a letter sent out to all of the candidates by Warren Thomas. He's the president of OPSEU, advising us to opt out of the retail sales arrangement for private sales of marijuana in our communities. There's too many questions around how this is going to play out right now. I really think I don't want to sound like an advocate. I'm definitely not an advocate. However, I think the city has to make some very informed choices. There are some costs for enforcement that will be downloaded if we opt into this model. So I will side with Warren Thomas and say that the city, for now, before January 24th, has to make a decision. I think that's going to be the first order on council's paper. And I would support opting out of that until it's clear how the financials are going to work out for that.
So you would support opting out. Now, even if there's not an opportunity to opt back in, because I've read that it might be a one-time opt-out situation.
I have a feeling that if the government gets a taste of that money, opting in will not ever be a problem.
So you think they'll allow, you know?
I can't begin to imagine a scenario in which they will say, no, we won't take your money.
Fair enough. So you've made your stance clear on that, and that would be one of your first orders of business. I'm sure it'll be the first order of business for all of council.
It certainly needs to be addressed, and sadly, I haven't heard any of the candidates talk about it. This is going to be a huge issue. We have drug problems in the community. We have optical problems with the methadone clinics on Queen Street. We don't need to add this.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for joining us tonight to talk a little bit about your campaign. We will be back to close up the show just after this short break. Stay tuned on Civic Affairs. Thanks for tuning into Civic Affairs tonight, and we're going to close up the show really quickly with Andy's predictions on how the elections are going to pan out. So, start at Mayor and down to Ward 5. What do you think?
Mayor is a pick'em. It's going to be 400 to 500 votes, just like the provincial election. Ward 1, Don Mitchell, Paul Christian. Ward 2, Luke Dufour, Lou Turkle. Not my favorite, but I'm going with the Ward 3, John Bruno and Matt Shoemaker. Ward 4, Marchie Bruni, Rick Nero. Ward 5, Ozzy Grandinetti and Frank Fata. How's that?
So if that's how it turns out, you heard it here first from Andy
We'll
Martin.
go back to the tape.
But I will say that I don't agree with all of his predictions. So stay tuned on election night to see if Andy's right, or if I'm right, or if neither of us are right, and someone
On
else
October 29th, we will have 3 of the winners. I'm expecting change in Ward 1, 2, and 3.
So we will be back on Civic Affairs on the 29th, but tune in to On TV on the 22nd for live election coverage. We'll be back on the 29th. See you then.